question: what are the advantages of humility? Just as self-conceit is the dissipation of the soul in its imaginings, which leads it into roaming and does not hinder it from soaring in the clouds of its thoughts, so that it whirls about throughout all creation, so humility gathers the soul into stillness, and it becomes concentrated within itself. As the soul is unknowable and invisible to bodily eyes, so the humble-minded person is not known among men. And as the soul, being within the body, is hidden from sight and from intercourse with all people, volitional or of the will, so the truly humble-minded man, by his withdrawal from all and by his deprivation in everything, not only does not desire to be seen or known by men, but such is his will, even, if it were possible, to withdraw from himself, to plunge inwardly into himself, to enter into stillness and dwell there, wholly abandoning all his former thoughts and feelings, becoming as though something that does not exist in creation, as one not yet come into being, utterly unknown even to his own soul. And while such a person remains hidden, enclosed within himself and withdrawn from the world, he abides wholly in his master. The humble-minded person never stops. He does not find pleasure to look upon gatherings, crowds, public throngs, agitation, noise, revelry, bustle, and pleasures whose consequence is lack of restraint. He is not drawn into speeches, conversations, shouting, or the dissipation of the senses. Rather, above all, he prefers to separate himself from everyone in stillness, withdrawing and cutting himself off from all creation, caring for himself alone in a land of silence. In everything, lowliness, non-acquisitiveness, want, and poverty are desirable to him. What he desires is not to possess much or to be continually occupied with affairs, but at all times to remain free, to have no cares, not to be disturbed by what is here below, so that his thoughts may not go out beyond himself. For he is certain that if he becomes involved in many things, he will not be able to remain without disturbance of thoughts, because with many affairs come many cares and a gathering of complex thoughts. And a person then ceases, in the world of his thoughts, to be above all earthly concerns, except for the smallest, most necessary needs, and he loses the thought that is concerned solely with its best contemplations. But if necessities do not cease to restrain him from higher thoughts, he comes to a state in which he both suffers harm and does harm, and from that moment the door to the passions is opened, the stillness of discernment departs, humility flees, and the door of peace is shut. For all these reasons, the humble-minded person continually guards himself from multiplicity, and thus finds himself at all times in stillness, in rest, in peace, in meekness, and in reverent fear. In the humble-minded person there is never fussiness, haste, disturbance, or heated and frivolous thoughts. Rather, at all times he abides in peace. If heaven were to cling to the earth, the humble-minded person would not be terrified. Not everyone who practices silence is humble-minded, but everyone who is humble-minded is a practitioner of silence. He who is not humble-minded is not humble, yet you will find many who are humbled but not humble-minded. This is precisely what was said by the meek and humble Lord. Learn from me, for I am meek and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. The humble-minded person abides at all times in peace, because there is nothing that can set his mind in motion or cast it into terror. As no one can frighten a mountain, so fearless is his mind. And if one may speak thus, and perhaps it is not unfitting to say so, the humble-minded person is not of this world, for in sorrows he is not terrified nor altered, and in gladness he does not fall into amazement nor expand himself outwardly. All his gladness and true rejoicing are in his master. After humility follow meekness and inward gatheredness, that is, chastity of the senses, moderation of voice, fewness of words, disregard for self, poor clothing, an unassuming gait, eyes cast downward, excellence in mercy, readiness to shed tears, a solitary soul, a contrite heart, immovability toward irritability, undissipated senses, scant possessions, diminishment in every need, endurance of all things. Patience, fearlessness, firmness of heart born of hatred for temporal life. Patience in temptations, weighty rather than light thoughts, the extinguishing of thoughts, the guarding of the mysteries of chastity, modesty, reverent fear, and above all these, unceasing silence and constant self-accusation for ignorance. The humble-minded person never encounters such a need as would lead him into turmoil or confusion. At times, even when alone, the humble-minded person feels shame before himself. I marvel at this, that the one who is truly humble-minded does not even dare to pray to God when he approaches prayer, nor to count himself worthy of prayer, nor to ask for anything else, and he does not know what to pray for. But he remains silent in all his thoughts, awaiting only mercy and that will which may proceed concerning him from the face of the worshipful Majesty. When he bows his face to the ground and the inward vision of his heart is lifted up, toward the exalted gates of the Holy of Holies, where dwells he whose habitation is darkness, who dims the eyes of the seraphim, whose virtue moves legions to stand in their choirs, who pours silence upon all their ranks. And he dares only to speak and to pray thus, O Lord, according to thy will, let it be with me. So let us also speak thus, concerning ourselves. Amen.